Yo, yo, yo. Hey, guys, welcome back to another awesome edition of the Best Practices Show podcast. My name is Kirk Behrendt, and I'm so grateful that you guys are showing up because here's the mojo, here's the jam, here's the focus of the whole show. It's to bring the best practices of the best practices and the best thinkers in all of dentistry to you to help you create a better practice and a better life. So keep showing up. And I have an amazing community of rock stars. And one of them I interviewed today. Her name is Dr. Tracey Nguyễn, and she is awesome. She is a great thinker. She's making big waves. And if you've already seen her, you know that's true. And if you haven't, you're going to get a chance to meet her today. And she brought up an amazing subject, which is the difference in being different with your mindset versus dangerous with your mindset. I hope you guys enjoy the episode, and we'll see you soon. Hey guys, welcome back to the Best Practices Show podcast. My name is Kirk Behrendt, and I love this stuff. I love it. I was telling my guest, Tracey, who you're going to get to meet in a second. Many of you have already met her. You already know who she is. But I'm a junkie, CE junkie. I love this stuff. And I feel just so fortunate to be able to get to know these people, ask them great questions, the great thinkers, the great speakers, the great leaders, the great influencers in dentistry, and pass along this to you guys because we want one thing. If you're listening, you're driving to work, you're cleaning the garage, you're cutting the grass. I always pick those three. I don't know why. I want you as a dentist to just go, that made my life a little bit better, made my practice a little better, maybe improved your thinking a little bit better. And I hope you're getting out of that. And I'm going to introduce you to Tracey Nguyễn, who's one of the newest. I don't know if you're one of the newest because I've actually known you for a couple of years now. Yeah. So you're new to some people, not so much, but you are definitely one of the upcoming rock stars here in dentistry. So Tracey, thanks for being on. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Now these are always fun. Now I like to always tell the story, like when I first met you and I'm like, okay, I've heard her name. What, what does she do? And so we had you on the conference. And now I'll just say this. So we had Bill Robbins and we've got Bob Margis and other dentists. And they're, Bill, Bob, sorry if you're listening, but they're CE snobs. They're kind of picky. And then when you finish speaking, they're like, dude, she was amazing. That was amazing. So we knew in an instance that you were somebody special in this whole process. But if nobody's ever heard your name or seen you do what you do, who's Tracey Nguyễn? Give us a little story before we get into the topic.
Oh, wow. Who's Tracey Nguyễn? Well, today, if people Googled me and looked at my Facebook page and Instagram, you would call me the Airway dentist because that's all I talk about. And, my mission after I met Jeff Rouse was really to encourage the dental community to really get involved in the management of sleep and breathing disorders. And most of you probably also know me from ASAP Pathways, and that is an online education program geared primarily towards pediatrics. But interesting enough that we talk about the non-growing child, and then that kind of segues into adults. So when people ask me about it, it's isn't it just kids? I said, well, not really, because we're talking about everything. So that's kind of been my passion of just getting the dental community more involved with the medical community and just realizing how important we are in the treatment of this disease.
Yeah.
Just recently, John Coyce asked me to be the scientific advisor for the pediatric airway management. So I think that's huge to have the Coyce Center understand the importance of airway management. I mean, obviously Jeff Rouse started it with Spear. Now John is recognizing it. And I think the next big players, once we get Dawson, I think LVI is doing some courses, but it's an amazing field right now. So I'm really happy to be involved in it.
Well, and you're the right person. You've been tasked with a big responsibility here. Those are some big responsibilities with some important people, and putting the medical and the dental community together. That's even a bigger one. And it's a worthy, unbelievably important cause. So, we're going to talk about your journey on here, but you brought up something before we hit the go button, and I loved it. I mean, you said, there's a difference between the different mindset and the dangerous mindset. I want you to explain that. So let's go through that. What did you mean by that?
Well, I think like when we were talking about our journeys, and I looked at my journey. I mean, now I'm like 20 years in, and I find myself today as a mentor and supporter of a lot of my dental friends, and that's kind of what ASAP is. I just want to support my dental community. And then I realized that when I was out of school, I did not have that. So, that mindset that you go and you're hungry for information, and then you're just getting a lot of information, but then you don't have any mentor, any guidance. Right. So that when I was talking about like dangerous and different, it's like you really should early in your career find a purpose. And once you find a purpose and you find a goal and you find what makes you happy, you grab the people that will help you in that journey.
Right.
And I don't think that a lot of young dentists have that, but I think it's important for us to seek that. And it's also important for older dentists to mentor other dentists, because I mean, we represent each other. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, we represent each other. So if one person isn't doing something right, it's a reflection of the whole community.
Right, right. So now go back to this. Yeah, because talk about this. Let's call it out. Like, it isn't always easy in this journey. So you said, you mentioned like it was about the 15-year mark where things started to crystallize. Can you talk about, because really the essence of this is a lot of people take education and they're just sampling it. But for you, it was right around the 15-year mark. Is that about right or no?
Yeah. It's crazy because I think that was when I was like, you're just paying the bills, and you're just searching, you're just trying to get money. And so I think right out of school, I mean, that's all I was focused on, taking these classes, whatever classes made me money. And it wasn't until like I joined the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry. I was like, okay, I kind of like this cosmetics. And then I went into the Koi Center, and it's very different because then you're meeting people that actually care about you. And when you meet John, you really get this sense that he cares about the fashion and he cares about you. And once you have that family, it's like a different mindset. And that's when I started to really grow. Like I don't think like I grew as a dentist, as a person, until I joined the Koi Center, until I had that network of people to support me. And then, so that's how when I look back, pretty much at that, up until that 15-year, I was just like working to get paid, working to pay the bills, and, working to get paid really well. Right. But I didn't really have a purpose.
Right. Now talk about this, because John is one of the most brilliant educators of all time. There's only one of him. Do you know what I mean? And he does care. Why do you feel like family when you go? Like, what do they do that, and again, you can pick any place to go, but in your journey, it was Kois. What specifically happened that made you feel part of the quote unquote tribe or the family when you went there?
So it's interesting. And basically in the first track course, he has a good 30 minutes to an hour discussion on tribe and the meaning of community and taking care of each other. And I think because he instills that in his students, then students, they do that for the other students, and I've never had that kind of relationship. And it's interesting. And the first symposium after COVID, he ended it with like, who's got your back? And I thought this was so powerful that he said that after COVID, he realized how many people had the center's back. And then he's like, for as long as I'm alive, we will always have yours. And that was so powerful for everybody. Mm-hmm. And, I took that and I was like, I want to do that for somebody else.
Right.
That's when one of the things Betsy Bakeman, which is another mentor of mine, she mentioned, it's like, you're going to have certain paths in your journey, like the beginner, the learner, and then at the top of your career, it's about like your legacy. What do you want to leave back?
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because you don't think about your legacy until like you're doing well, but I think we should think about that right when you start.
Mm-hmm.
Like with treatment planning, with the end in mind. Like, how do you want to be remembered? What kind of life, what kind of journey do you want to have?
Right.
And I feel like you should have that guidance in the beginning.
Yeah.
And it's so fulfilling now that I understand that.
Right. Now you bring up, somebody like Betsy, who's just an amazing human being. I don't know if this happened for you, but this happened for me. When I was 24, I still don't even know what I'm doing. I'm 52. But what you do when you show up to these things is by osmosis, the relationships start to happen. Next thing you know, like they know your name. You're like, I've watched this dude on, like, I've seen this guy speak like 3 times. He actually said my name. Like, wow, that was kind of cool, And at first you're a little shell shocked. You're like, wow, that's like Betsy Bakeman. She's like the rock star, And then you're like, oh my gosh, she's just like me, except 10 times smarter, like type of thing. And then and then they actually start to help you. And then they in so many different ways point you in the right direction and go, don't do that. I did that. No. You know what I mean? So I think, what you're saying is absolutely true. Like you got to find legacy is really important, but it's really hard to find by yourself. You need to, you become the average of the 5 people you hang around with most. I tell my kids that all the time, but it's no different for adults, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, like if I'm a young dentist listening, like, Tracey, I'm 32. What do I do? Like what you're talking about legacy, like I'm trying to pay bills, like, and I like this whole thing, Airway, but here, I'm going to ask you the $1 million question around here. I don't even know how I would implement it in my practice. I got like 3,000 pages. Like, how do I even make money doing? I believe in it, but like, so talk about legacy and, where do I go from here?
So, you mentioned that, and then you mentioned how to make money off of Airway.
Right.
And so that's something that we always talk about. And one of the things Jeff Rouse always says is just do dentistry. And I think the thing is what people don't understand is Airway dentistry is just doing dentistry with respect to the airway. Wow. So it's not like its own discipline. It's really just straight dentistry, but understanding how your dentistry can impact airway. Yeah. I think that's where people get a little bit confused. But also with airway management, and I think I've said this before, that the core of airway management is understanding how the patient's medical history, how they feel, what's going on in their life. And if you can connect with a patient that level, like it's a different type of relationship. You will see how the practice will grow. If you're looking at airway dentistry as in how many full mouth rehabs can I do? That's not what airway dentistry is about. Airway dentistry is about connecting with your patients, understanding the medical history, and guiding them throughout their entire treatment, their health treatment, and including dentistry.
Yeah.
So it's a different mindset. And I think when I introduced airway dentistry, or that whole oral systemic connection, helping patients navigate through their whole medical history, they took it as, okay, you're not just someone that's going to fix my tooth. Right. You're sitting here and you really care about me and care about how I sleep, how I feel, how I breathe. And then, by the way, this is how my family is. And that's how my practice has grew. But airway dentistry isn't like, I'm going to take an occlusion course and I'm going to do 5 rehabs.
Right.
It's a different philosophy.
Yeah.
But your practice will grow.
Yeah. And so if you're a dentist listening, I want you to hear what she just said. And that's part of what my education journey was. It wasn't so much like hearing a Pete Dawson say like specifically that. What you hear from any great speaker, a mentor, a friend, a community, is a mindset. John Coyce, so many times I have to take notes and I have to go, okay, wait a minute. That was really good. I got to think about what he just said. Cause everyone else is nodding and I'm 5 seconds or 10 seconds behind. I'm like, okay, I need to fully understand what he just said. What you come away is your thinking gets farther. And that's what we're really talking about is like your mindset improves, your ability. Now, and I'll also say this because we talked about this. It doesn't, if you're listening, you're like, hey, look, I'm all in, but I don't know what my legacy is. It might not be Airway. That's okay. You got to figure out what it might not, and it might not include something like that, but you do need to find something that's meaningful so that it adds some energy to the journey. Now, I want you to talk about this. You were interviewing associates. Can you tell us about that? That's a very interesting story.
Yeah, so I was interviewing an associate, and she was working for a group practice, and she was 1 year out, and she really didn't feel like there was any family, there wasn't any connection to the staff, to the other doctors, and so she was ready to work somewhere else. And so I asked her, I said, okay, what are you looking for? She goes, well, I just want to do more cosmetic dentistry. And I was like, okay, so, what classes are you taking? So she names a couple classes. And I was like, and she was very confident in her cosmetic dentistry. And I was like, well, so you're just 1 year out. And this is kind of how everyone is. 1 year out, they're like gung-ho. They want to do a bunch of cosmetic dentistry and they think their stuff is great. Because I was that person, And I think it's humbling because I was like, look, I think 1 year out, let's take a look at your cases. One thing about working with me is I think it's important for us to work together. Let me guide you through the cases. I want to mentor you, blah, blah, this and that. And she was like, no one has ever actually wanted to help me.
Right.
And I said, so that's my thing with associates. As you're looking for that next job, one, it's great to be like gung-ho and excited and confident, but it's also important to be humble and accept criticism and support. And my recommendation is find an office that's going to mentor you.
Right. Now, I want you to go back to this because this is really important because everybody wants that. And you see these ads and you see people are like willing to mentor you. I think it's fair, if you're an associate listening, to ask a dentist, tell me exactly what that means, mentor. Is that like passing in the hallway as you're headed to Florida? Or that whenever I screw up, or will there be dedicated time where we're going to review cases on Thursday mornings? And is it fair to ask that?
I think it is, and I think like when you choose the practice that you work for, you should ask yourself, do you want to be like this person? You know what I mean? Like, or are you like, when you pick a job and you're working for a boss, like I think you should always be looking up to your boss. Mm-hmm. Right. And so when you pick a dentist, you're like, okay, would I want this dentist working in my mouth? Is this someone I really want to work for? And then that person can also guide and mentor you in your cases, in your work, in your life. I mean, that's how I see it. I think too many, and I get it because like the expenses are really high and you're really just trying to pay the bills. But there's no growth in it if you're in a practice where you don't respect your boss, or you don't respect his or her work.
Yeah.
Fine, and I think that dangerous is where you're just trying to chase the money. You're like, this is a job, I need this job right now, but it's not fulfilling if you don't like the door that you walk through.
You are speaking my jam, and I always say this: like, if you're considering a partnership or an associateship, or another dentist, if your core values do not line up, it will never, ever, 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 I can't say ever work. It'll never, ever work. You'll try to make them fit. And the only way it does is if you compromise on your values. You're like, I'm just going to have to suck it up because I'm going to have to like fit. And we don't always have to agree, but like the fundamental value system. When you're working for somebody that cares about their team members, when you're working for somebody that's a good person. And listen, I'm not here to like say, oh, everybody's got to find the perfect situation. But I think there's a couple key questions that you can ask to say is this a different mindset or a dangerous mindset for me when I'm going into this? And you're going to fail. There are some things that you're going to try. And you seem like somebody whose everything touches turns to gold. Like, have you ever failed at anything? Come on. Like, I'm curious. Like,
oh no. no, I've made many mistakes, and it's funny because I'm one of those, like, if I believe in something, I go in at 110%, but
Okay.
no, I mean, my issue is, I'm not afraid to fail,
Okay. Tell me about
and
that. Like, how does that relate?
like, so I was talking to one of my team members. I said, like, the worst thing that could happen is, well, you fail and you try it again.
Right.
Like, what's so bad about failing? Like, you have to learn. Some of the best athletes in the world failed miserably before they
Right.
got to where they are. I was like, you can't expect to be perfect at everything,
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, failure just comes with the territory, and I don't even think of it as failure. You have to think of it as like growth.
Yeah. You've heard all the cliches, like failure's fertilizer. And I've heard that one many times. And so like Nito Cobain, who was a coach of mine, he's like, listen, you're going to lose, but don't lose like the essential lesson, because like he would always say the insanity thing, like, it's repeat.
Right.
He goes, when you screw up, it's going to hurt, but just take a deep breath and go, okay, what happened here? Because when you repeat it, that's when you go crazy. You're going to have cases fail. You're going to have relationships fail. You're going to screw things up with team members or family, and you're going to like, okay, that was painful. Let's not let this happen again. And for me, I'm a wuss. So I've learned that like, I'm just going to be clear up front about things. You know what I mean? No, here's the details. Here's how it works. Because I was afraid to tell everybody the details up front. No, it's going to be great. Come on. So it's always, always good. What are some other things that you see as far as dangerous mindsets? Because I have a special place in my heart for these younger dentists. Like when you mentor a lot of them, what are some other things you would say, beware or look out for this?
Oh, I don't know about look out. I just think, well, I think I'm trying to, I think we're too focused on the quick and easy fix. The quick and easy fix I get is kind of like the money.
Yeah.
And even when we talk about like failure, it's like not understanding why and self-acknowledgement. That's a big thing. It's like not even recognizing what you're good and not good at.
Right.
and what to do about it. One thing I remembered, I was listening to Tony Robbins, and he said, if you want to be good at something, find the person that's the best at it and go learn from them.
Right.
And I remember that. I was like, you know what? That is so smart. And I was like, duh, I had this like light bulb in my head. I was like, you know what? If I want to learn this, I'm going to this person. If I want to learn this, I'm going to that person. And
Right.
I thought that was huge too, versus just taking, because as a new dentist, I was taking like just random classes. Like, oh, this class is $200. I'll take it. This class is blah, blah, blah. I'll take it.
Yeah. And it's so funny that you say that, because it's absolutely true. So Bob Margis, who's a great mutual friend of ours, like Bob is, he's left this open, and sorry, Bob, if you're listening, because somebody's going to, he leaves an open invitation to all dentists anywhere in the world. Come watch me do what I do. Do you know how many people have ever made the trip? Like, it's less than 10. I think he's the best dentist in the world. Like, why wouldn't you fly there for free? And just watch him work for a day, and then watch how he does what he does. Wouldn't that be worth your ticket to go? And, and Tracey, you learned a lot from observing other people. You can learn from them from an education standpoint, but when you watch them, that's when the magic starts to happen, right?
Yeah. You know what I was thinking about my associate interview? Because like she was talking about how she wanted to do all these big cases. And I said, well, let me ask you this. Do you know how to present a case? And like, she was like quiet. And I said, you can do a $10,000 case, and you're probably $20,000, and you're probably good at it. But can you treatment plan it? Can you get a patient to say yes?
Right.
And I think that's another thing. And that's what you do very well with practice management, teaching doctors how to treatment plan and communicate. We don't have enough of that. Mm-hmm. We're so focused on our skill, but how you communicate is almost more powerful than your skill.
Right. It's so true.
I remember taking over this one dentist. He retired it, and I saw the dentistry that was coming in, and I was like, oh, he should have retired 10 years before. But it was funny because his patients loved him. Yeah. So it was kind of like, oh yeah, he did this filling, and I'm looking at it, it's like, but the patient loved the dentist. And I was like,
Yeah.
it's amazing what like that skill set of talking to patients, communicating and talking about treatment plan. That is what dentists, we don't do enough of. We're so focused on our skill, but we don't know how to communicate.
Yeah. There's been so many people that have said it. So, I mean, you've probably heard this. You've heard dentist, master after master say this, your ability to communicate will determine how far you really go in dentistry, because you're going to learn the skill. But as you and your team get really good at communicating and more importantly, connecting with people, that's where your skill comes together in reality and it actually starts to serve people. Now, I want you to, we're going to, as we talk about different and dangerous mindset, you created a cause. And I want you to talk about that. And it's like, as soon as you started doing it, it's like you put the turbo rockets on. Now, again, you don't have to do what Tracey was doing, but you created something that I would guess you expect to be bigger than you. So talk about the journey in creating your cause. What is it? How it energized you? How it continuously energizes you? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so when I started promoting all this stuff about airway management, I started with my Facebook page, and then I just started promoting articles and literature because the medical community and the dental community, we understand the literature. It's like, okay, she's not BSing now. Once I started to do that, I realized the importance of kids. And then we developed the online education program. So now it's more of just me getting our members to also communicate this to the public. So if I can get one dentist to keep talk about it and get that dentist keep talking about it, then we become more significant.
Yeah.
So yes, I do hope that in my lifetime that I get to see this airway dentistry become standard of care, like have every dentist understanding the impact of what we do in our dentistry, that we are just not drill, fill, and bill.
Yeah.
It's like we really care about the patient as a whole, and we're respected by the medical community. We're not like people that didn't get into medical school. We're our own community.
100%. Now talk about the specifics of exactly what you create. Like, what is it? How do you do it? Because you've got an online component. And I'm just going to say this. If you guys have a study club and you haven't had Tracey come speak, you are missing out. Like, you have got to see. So how does the format work? What is it? If I'm listening, how do I find it? What is it?
Yes, you can go to asappathways.com and basically there are 4 core modules. So the core modules is your basic sleep training. Like what is it? What are you treating? How to diagnose it? How do you work with the medical community? So that's like your core values right there. Then what we do is every month we ask key opinion leaders to come speak to us, and we ask physicians, ENTs, myofunctional therapists. We get everyone to come in once a month, and they give us a lecture. We have forums, Facebook, WhatsApp groups to kind of go over cases. And then the latest thing that we're doing is we're starting to have courses. So to really teach them more on the mechanics of treating these cases. So what I started to do, which kind of led me to ASAP, was in my journey in airway management, I realized that there was a lot of things I didn't know. Mm-hmm. So I reached out to different speakers, like I reached out to Becca Boghow, I reached out to Ilya Lipkin. I reached out to all these people and said, hey, you know what? I want to do this. I need you to teach it to me. And you know what? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring 20 people with me to your office, and I want you to teach it to me. So that's how it started for me.
Wow.
And I started
and Becca,
doing all
Becca said, bring them all up. What day?
It was crazy. And then I went to Audrey Yu and I said, you know what? I want you to teach me. And in fact, I'll bring 20 people to come to you, or you come to me and teach us. Wow. So what started to happen was people that were like, weren't even speaking yet, like, and in their places. I mean, like Becca wasn't really having in-office speaking. She was traveling. So now she's like, hey, this might work, Tracey. And then now everybody has their own speaking event. But that's kind of what I decided. I was like, okay, what do I need in my practice? And I'm going to reach out to those speakers and I want them to teach me.
Right.
And then now what I do is I'm going to teach my members. So ASAP, so I selfishly developed this for myself because this is what I need to learn.
Right.
And I gave it for my members. But
That's awesome. And so we're going to put a link in the show notes. So if you're listening, I don't care, on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, you can flip up to the notes and you can click on that and take you right there. I'm encourage you to check it out. But Tracey, I'm going to have you back again and again and again. We're going to always cover different topics. But any last thoughts you have on the mindset and how important it is to a dentist's journey in this great profession?
I find a mentor. I think that is huge. Find friends, find mentors, because I think this profession can be really hard on us mentally. Like things that we go through. I mean, like, gosh, I had I had a really bad, crazy patient experience, and I think as dentists, we're such perfectionists. So when we have a patient that complains, it really takes us into a dark place.
Yeah.
And you really need to find that support to get you out of it. So if anything, if I can be that to anybody, that's all I want to be to somebody, get them out of that dark place, be that mentor, support for them. And if you as a dentist, you have to find that person, because this profession is tough. Yeah. You're going to have your ups and your downs, and you need that support there for you.
100%. We are created. God created us as relational beings. And like, I would say this, and I've done this, like the worst person to talk to is yourself, and a lot of experts say this, 80% of self-talk is negative talk. It's not like, I had a great day. I'm a good person. Like, no, most of if you're a dentist, if you're a dentist and you're talking to yourself, it's a lot of negative stuff. It's like, and then, if you have people watching you or you're hanging around with your kids, my son will do this. He's like, Dad, your lips are moving. I'm like, you can see that? And he's like, yeah, I can start to hear. He'll stop me and go, what are you saying? And I'm like, you don't even want to know. So my point is, don't talk to yourself. Talk to Tracey. Talk to other people. Like Jeff, and you're a great simplifier. You're going to find like great educators are great simplifiers. Like how you presented Airway today, like how do I make money? Don't think of it like that. Instead, do dentistry and incorporate Airway. That's great thinking. I talk to Jeff Rouse Jeff will take like the most complicated thing and he'll use 4 words. And I'm like, you're only going to use 4 words to describe that big controversy? And I'm like, those are pretty good words. Like, it's really cool when you can use the help and expertise of other people that have been down the road in front of you. And it calms you. It makes the journey fun, right?
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
So, go ahead.
No, I mean, that's true. It makes the journey fun. Like once you have that support network and guidance, you're coasting now. You're like, okay, this is good. I can do this. I'm not doing it alone.
Yeah, you are awesome. So Tracey, I can't thank you enough for being on. Thank you so much. And I'm going to volunteer you to come back. You like that? So.
I love it. I love it. It's like I'm like an honorary speaker with you.
Well, you've chatty. I know. Well, you've been tasked with a lot of big responsibilities to help this profession. And so we're going to do check-ins all the time just to see how it's going. I have no doubt you're going to create some big waves that'll be good ones for dentists to catch in the future. So make sure you check out Tracey's stuff, guys, if you're listening. So Tracey, stick around while I say goodbye to everybody else. But thank you guys for listening to the Best Practice Show podcast. Hey, if you enjoyed today, which I know you did, just do us a favor, hit the share button, share this with your friends, and let us know other things that you guys want to see. I get these requests from you guys all the time, and I love it. And so other things that you guys want to see from Tracey, just send them to me, and I'll get her set up, and we'll ask her those questions. So, and get the...
I love Q&A.
What's that?
I said I love Q&A.
I love Q&A too, because... you can actually go where people's brains are, and I have a lot of thoughts. So, but your thoughts are better than mine. So it's all good. So until we see you guys next time, or you hear from us next time, you guys keep watching the Best Practices Show. Hope you guys enjoy your day. We'll see you soon.